Flat characters are the fastest way to lose a reader's interest. If your story feels like it's missing something, chances are it might be this. You have not gone deep enough into what happened to your character before the book begins. My name is Haley, and I am a writing teacher and editor who has helped thousands of writers bring their characters to life. And this is one of the biggest things I see writers overlook in early drafts. So in this video, I'm going to break down the most common emotional wound types, those kinds of past pain that will quietly shape your character's flaws, fear, and arc in your book. I'm also going to show you how to use some simple prompts to help you brainstorm your character's backstory. So to begin with, what is an emotional wound and why does it matter? Well, a wound is basically what has hurt your character before the story begins. And this is important because just like real people, characters want love, they want success, they're searching for meaning, but they can't get what they want because a fear is going to get in their way. So just like real people, characters want love, they want success, they are searching for meaning, but they can't get what they want because first of all, a character that got every single thing they wanted right from the beginning would make for a very boring book. But more importantly, they can't get what they want because there is something in their way. In almost every book, there are going to be external things that are in your character's way, but you also need to think about the internal things that are getting in your character's way of achieving their goals. A character's wound is a fear or behavior that is born from old pain, and that wound is going to get in the way of everything they want. A wound will shape your character's behavior because every single wound creates a lie that your character tells themselves. Something false that that character believes about themselves or the world. So say they want love, but they have been abandoned in the past. They are going to then tell themselves the lie that they don't deserve love or they don't need love. And so they might turn away realistic love choices because they don't believe that they deserve or can find love for themselves. When you understand what happened to your character in the past and how that influences their behavior in the present, this can unlock your entire character arc. You start with a character who is influenced by an old pain and getting in their own way of achieving their goals. And then throughout the narrative, they unlearn that behavior. They learn how to tell themselves the true story, not that lie, and they end in a place where they can achieve their goals, not just because of external circumstance, but because of the internal growth that they have done. Let's look at some of the most common wound types. One of the most common wound types is abandonment or rejection. This is like being left by a parent, or rejected by a past lover, or growing up emotionally neglected. Characters who have this wound tend to tell themselves a lie that says something like, I am not lovable enough to stay for. Because of this, they become avoidant of close relationships. They're often fiercely independent. They want to do every single thing by themselves. And they may be afraid of intimacy, even though that is absolutely what they crave. A great example of a character with the abandonment wound is Mark Darcy from Bridget Jones's Diary. So Mark appears super aloof and emotionally guarded when Bridget meets him. And we learn that this is because he has this long history, this wound of being let down, especially by his ex-wife who cheated on him with his best friend. So that has created this lie in Mark's head. I am not lovable enough. I do not deserve love. I am not good enough to stay for. This betrayal means that Mark is really emotionally closed off at the beginning of the story. He really struggles to let Bridget in despite how much attraction there is. Another common wound is betrayal or misplaced trust. This is a bit different from abandonment, but it's basically when your character has been betrayed or let down by someone they trusted deeply before the story starts. So the lie that the character will tell themselves is people I love will always let me down. And that letting down, again, tends to be different than abandonment because it creates this flaw of being very guarded and suspicious. So instead of your character thinking, oh, I don't deserve love, they've kind of written love out of the equation. They are incredibly independent, they are out from themselves, and they're very emotionally distant from others. Kaz Brekker from Six of Crows is a perfect example of this. Kaz has a long history of betrayal. He was let down by someone in a position of power who he trusted, and so he's become this guarded, suspicious character who doesn't let anyone in, does not put his trust in any of his friends or people who are close to him, and he really believes that every single person that he loves or cares for will betray him, so the only person he can trust is himself. Another common example of a wound is a physical wound or disability. This might be something like scarring, chronic illness, or some type of visible difference that can lead to your character thinking, I am broken or less than. They might end up being defensive, bitter, or afraid to be seen. A good example of a character like this is Tyrion Lannister from A Song of Ice and Fire. So Tyrion's dwarfism has made him the object of scorn and mockery from his family and the world at large. This has led Tyrion to rely on his own wit and his cynicism as armor. He's often bitter and kind of defensive of who he is. He sees himself as needing to prove his worth in every single scenario. Another example of a wound is isolation. Isolation is when your character has always been an outsider, whether that is socially, culturally, economically, or even emotionally prior to the story's start, which creates this lie that they don't belong anywhere. They will never have people that accept them. They will never have a place in society. And this can create this flaw in the character where they are deeply lonely but don't reach out for support, or they are potentially hostile towards others who they think will not accept them, and they may also have a lot of internalized shame. Elphaba from Wicked is a great example of the isolation wound. Elphaba was born visibly different, and because of that, she was rejected by her family and society at large. So Elphaba starts the story deeply isolated. This wound later fuels her transformation into the Wicked Witch because she believes that she will never belong anywhere and will always be an outsider. A final example of a common wound is a past choice failure or mistake, particularly one that has resulted in serious harm to someone else or themselves, or shame that they carry, or even regret that this character carries, all before page 1 begins. The lie this character will tell themselves is because they have failed, because they have made this monumental mistake, they simply cannot be trusted to do the right thing. They might show up as a perfectionist because of this, who goes to huge lengths to make sure they might make a mistake. Or they might be risk adverse, deciding to not take any risks at all because they fear making a mistake again. Or they may even self-sabotage, not put themselves into positions where they might let themselves or others down because they're afraid of this. Another A Song of Ice and Fire character, Eddard or Ned Stark, is a perfect example of the past failure or mistake that haunts him. Ned carries this immense sense of guilt and responsibility from the prior war against the Mad King, and he has all these secrets that he's carrying about Jon Snow's parentage, long before the book opens. Because of this, Ned has this kind of rigid honor system. It stems from these past mistakes that he doesn't want to repeat, and ends up getting in the way of his character growth and safety. So when it comes to brainstorming your wound, here are 3 questions I want you to think about. First, what is the moment in your character's past that they never talk about? What is the thing that they change the topic about anytime someone brings them up? What is the secret that they carry that no one else knows? Their greatest sense of shame, something that they might not even be able to understand or articulate themselves. Another question to think about is who hurt your character the most and how did they hurt them? Did they abandon them? Did they reject them? Did they tell your character that they will never be worthy of love, of safety, of affection? That who could also not just be an individual person, but it might be a broader group or society or even worlds at large, as we saw in the case of Elphaba. And finally, you want to think about what lie is this character living because of this? Because of this wound, what is the story that they are telling themselves, and how does that behavior bear out on the page? Remember, effective stories do not just have external conflict that gets in the way of your characters achieving their goals. Your characters have to get in their own way too. And how your character gets in their own way relates to their wound. Their wound creates this gaping hole inside them that they create this lie to fill, this lie to stay safe. And that lie then leads them to behave and act in ways that means that they will never achieve their goals until, of course, they learn how to make peace with their past and fix their wound and unlearn that lie that they've told themselves. So wounds are not just a backstory. They are the emotional engine that drives your character's arc. When you know what the pain is that your character is carrying, every choice they make becomes richer, it becomes deeper, and even more real. Wounds are just one key ingredient to building complex characters, so if you found this video helpful, make sure you check out my video on how to build compelling characters, where we cover the 3 essential questions you need to ask about your character. In it, I walk you through the full framework for crafting layered, unforgettable protagonists. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more storytelling insights from Storylab.